Quickie.
Are you ready? Let's go.
Alex J. here.
Alex, are you ready to pod? We are ready. Let's get to it.
Ready.
This is Alex J. here, and welcome to Pod With Me Quickie. Signs of death. What happens to us when we're about to die? Those are questions that linger in our minds sometimes, right? Well, I try not to think about it too much. How did I find this topic, guys? Well, I ran into this interesting interview with Dr. Peter Fenwick, who's a neuropsychiatrist and an expert in near-death experiences. He's been studying them for years. How does he study them?
In 2000, when I started on this research, you could go into PubMed, one of the main medical databases, and ask questions like, how many people have published papers on deathbed visions? So you could become a world expert, you see, very quickly. You only had to look at 7 papers and you knew the literature. So we actually did a carer study. We did 3 hospices and a nursing home in this country, and we did 3 hospices in Rotterdam to get a cross-cultural component. It's not very cross-cultural, but it's just slightly different.
So Dr. Fenwick, please tell us, what did you gather from all your studies?
The first thing that you may get is a premonition. And that means that you know you're going to die. So before you get the diagnosis, you learn in a dream, maybe, or it suddenly comes to you that you're going to die soon. A few weeks before you die, you get deathbed visitors. Now, what's a deathbed visitor? They are relatives who come to you, and they do it in a specific way. They may stand outside the room in which you're dying, or they may come into the room, and that's quite common. You, of course, will talk to them, and then a number of them will sit on the bed and talk to you. Why do they sit on the bed? Because it's enormously comforting to you to have somebody sitting on a bed. So it's mainly first-degree relatives. And we also found in our sample that spiritual beings were seen. Now, the spiritual beings behave slightly differently from the relatives. They tend to either wait outside the hospice, and they're seen through the window, or they may come to the door, and some of them come in. What we initially found was that you went into a different reality, a spiritual world, and then you came back again. So this was as if you were getting used to the spiritual world. So you went into it and came back, and went into it and came back. And it was very important for the people who were dying. Now that is changing. And I want to talk about Monica Rentz's theory on this. She's just recently done a dual hospice study. Now, what she finds is that what we said was correct. Deathbed visitors come fine. Then, at some moment, you realize you're going to die, and it hits you hard. We're not coming back, guys. This isn't a getting well process. It's a dying process. And that then leaves you in a very difficult position, because you've never come across that before. You've always had some control over something. You now don't. And so you have to start giving everything up. This is absolutely fundamental. You have to give up the fact that you're going to go on living. You have to give up your wife. You have to give up your cat and your dog. You have to give up your children, your family. You have to give up your house and your job. You've got to give up everything. And if you don't, you remain attached. Now, attachment is the most difficult thing when you're dying. If you could give everything up, you'd have a very smooth transition. You go from this pre-transition, where you're attached, to transition, which is a sort of intermediate one, to post-transition. And in post-transition, you in fact have given everything up. It's just like that. Until at the end, you've lost your ego, you've lost that part of yourself which has differentiated you, and you become what's called non-dual. That means that you do in fact merge with the universe. You've already lost all your trappings of being a body and a person, and you've just got this non-duality which is merging with the greater cosmos behind. You've got many things which are much more important than that because you don't value death. Simple as that. And it's very important. Nothing strange about it. We're all going to do it, so we might learn about it.
Well, I certainly hope it's the way Dr. Fenwick is describing all of this. Anyhow, I hope you did not freak out too much with today's quickie. Until the next one, don't fall off the pod.
Ready.
For more on Pod With Me, check us out on our social media. On Facebook, we are Pod With Me AJA. On Instagram, Pod With Me. We're also on the Apple Podcast app and Google Podcast app. Check us out there. And that's the best way to listen to Pod With Me. This is Alex J. Aguiar. And until next time, don't fall off the pod.
Ready.